Hi everybody, Norman Van Aken here with the Treasure Book series. This is a fun treasure book. The title of it is Staff Meals by David Waltuck and his lovely wife Karen. There is a tradition that goes back centuries, I would guess, to restaurants serving staff meals. I will never forget going to France with Janet and our dear friends Pearl and Connie Perry and our children. They were children at the time. I don't know what year it was right now. Let's say 2000. And we went to the vaunted bistro, L'Ami Louis. We had arrived in France that day, into Paris that day. It was rainy, and for us, it was a completely discombobulated hour because of the travel from the United States. But we had to dine at L'Ami Louis. And so we found the property via cab and walked up to the door. And it was dark as pitch. I felt like I was in some Charles Dickens novel, London versus Paris, but we were in Paris. And I could smell this amazing aroma coming from within this building, but the door was locked. And we were like, what the heck? We couldn't have got the date wrong. We couldn't have. And it's after 8 o'clock, and our reservation was for 8 o'clock. And then the door clicked, and a person opened up the door, and we could see a dozen people underneath some lamps finishing up staff meal. That's what had been going on. The door was locked because they were enjoying some time together before service. Staff meal is one of the most important things that we can do in our industry for us to touch that human nerve part again. To, yes, speak about what we're going to do for service. We also speak about our families and about times, and maybe we pretty much try to stay away from the news of the day anymore, but we talk about beautiful things in life, movies that we love, music that we love, somebody went on a vacation, somebody got married, all those kind of things. And it's kind of a situation like this where there's a big table. Sometimes it's a little more rustic looking than this, with people more like, I think, the television show The Bear probably shows very well, with most of us drinking out of deli cups, because nor would we have, no, we wouldn't be pulling out the wine. But it is the spirit of the staff meal that I really wanted to touch on with this book. David and Karen operated one of the greatest restaurants in the history of New York called Chanterelle. And Janet and I, for a little while there, when we were going back and forth to New York for the Beard Foundation, it became our custom to dine at Chanterelle for lunch before we'd get on the plane at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and fly back to Miami. This was before the TSA situation being so onerous and such, and so it was just lovely because we would go, we'd have wine, sometimes even have a brandy before we would leave. But cab, not driving, and then we get on the plane and go home and, of course, take a little nap on the way. Beautiful restaurant, beautiful people, humble, sweet, kind people. And speaking of Chanterelle, look at this. This menu is from Chanterelle. And same people that wrote this book operate this. This is the menu, and this goes back. This stylistically goes back to one of the most famous restaurants in the history of restaurants, La Pyramide, in the town of Vienne in France. And yes, the menus changed, different artists doing different covers. I believe this is the artist Terry Winters. And look at this. This doesn't relate. It does relate to this book, and it doesn't. This is the menu from Chanterelle, handwritten. Karen hand wrote these menus. That is a lot of work. And on this side we have, how does it work? Is this the a la carte? Now this is the tasting menu. Maybe this whole thing is tasting. This was elegant cuisine. Terrine of smoked fish with black caviar sauce, foie gras sauté with blood orange and pepper caramel, red snapper, red wine, and a ragu of vegetables, roast venison, cream sauerkraut and paprika, then cheese, and then an assortment of chocolate, desserts, coffee and tea, wine tastings. And yeah, we went for that wine tasting often. Jewel-like, beautiful restaurant. But back to staff meals. I have an older brother. He's still with us. Buddy is what he's been known as his whole life. And Buddy was a car dealer for years, like my father and like my grandfather on my father's side. Then he kind of disappeared for a while, and I had lost touch. By the time he was maybe 25 years old, he left our native Illinois, went somewhere. Turns out he went to California. Turns out, completely blowing my mind, he got in the restaurant business. And I learned that from a very famous radio personality from San Francisco, Narcy David, who said, "Why didn't you tell me your brother was in the restaurant business near San Francisco?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? Anyway, Buddy, restaurant business, but a very different path with the restaurant business. Buddy, much more the kind of place that was a neighborhood restaurant right near where we grew up called Bill's Pub. Famous for their pizza and famous for their Italian beef sandwiches. Speaking of the bear. And he said, "Hey, Norman, I know you love cookbooks, but would you recommend one to me that maybe would be more fitting to what I like to do with the kind of cooking I love to do?" And I recommended this book, Staff Meals. I said, this is the one. This is the one you want to get. So you have with this book, you have the technical brilliance of the kind of chef that can do this kind of food, but the kind of home cooking style of food that the staff would both want to eat and reasonably the restaurant could afford to feed the staff in this way, including the staff's all-time favorite, David's famous fried chicken with creamed spinach and herbs. Additionally, in this book, there are some great tips. Here's buying Parmigiano Reggiano, macaroni with 2 cheeses. Everybody loves mac and cheese. So this is the kind of book that I'm testing fish for doneness. This is the kind of book that I think those of you that love to go to nice restaurants, but maybe want something simpler than some of my books, or the Chanterelle cookbook, which I have done a treasure book series on, but somehow it got lost. I'm going to do it again because I still love talking about that book. And I think those of you that love food, love fine dining, would like to cook at home some of these things, this is an ideal book for you. There's David's famous fried chicken. This, sticking in the book, is from the New York Times Magazine from June of 2007, and it's not about Chanterelle or staff meals. This is an article, though, about staff meals, and the subtitle is, "It's not just the rich who chow down at Per Se being Thomas Keller's famous New York City-based restaurant." And this article belonged, I thought, in the staff meals cookbook. And here's 2 staff meals that they would have at Per Se: falafel and then leg of lamb. Not bad. So, yeah, it's important. It is important to sit down together as family, which is the other name for this is family meals, and to sit down as family and just take a 20-minute breather before we go into service, before we do what we love to do already, and not be not nourished mentally, emotionally, and with food. All right, everybody. Always a pleasure. I'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy your day, your evening, whatever part of it is to you. I'll see you again on my treasure book series. Adios.